this time we're going to do the duck. All right, so what do I got to do?
Start with your knife blade between at the very middle.
Oh, we're going to back up. You're going to help me truss this. What are we going to do?
Flip it over and tie the neck tight.
All right, so flip it over and tie the neck. What do I need?
3 lengths.
Okay, 3 lengths of the twine. So we're just going to kind of rough guesstimate the 1, 2, 3.
Cut the twine.
Yep, thank you. So right in the middle, now what are we going to do?
Tie the neck.
All right, so we're going to tie on the neck. If you don't have a neck, what's going to happen is you're going to skip this part of the process. So we'll just assume this doesn't have a neck. But you tie the neck, flip it over. Now what? All right, we need to tuck the wings under. And again, we're kind of assuming here that we don't have a neck to tie onto. But what we're going to do is we're going to line up on the back side just like we had a neck there, just not anchor on anything. We're still going to come along the sides, come up under the legs, right across the side of the thigh. Tie it tight to kind of pull it in, up around the legs, tie it tight here as well, and we would tuck the rest of the skin under, but a little safety knot there. And then when you're done with this, you would say, "Chef," and I would come running over, I would go, "Oh, you know, the legs are in there nice and tight, it's pulled in kind of a compact shape, the strings come along the side, not underneath the wings." Yeah, and that's just to help line up that thigh a little bit. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and take this off. So I checked it out. You can continue with your fabrication. So what's the first step? All right, so we're going to split the breast. How?
Right down the middle. We go on one side.
All right, so we're going to cut. We even see the line here in the duck. We're going to cut right down the middle. And duck is a whole lot more cartilage, so you don't need as much pressure, but we're going to come right down the middle, and we're going to come on either side of that keel bone. And then nice long slicing strokes, following the curvature. Work both directions. And then this is where people get lost. You have a whole lot more cartilage here. The duck ribs kind of have like a little jumped out, you know, a little shelf there. So I'm just kind of following that around and noticing what's meat, what's bone. I'm just kind of following that natural curvature. So I've gotten to the wing. How am I going to trim this up? What am I going to do to cut this breast away? This is where I get students go like, "Chef, I don't know what to do."
Pull the wing so you can see the joint.
All right, so I'm pulling the wing out. I can see that joint line up, and I can cut right through that joint. We're going to follow all the way up. And when I cut the meat away from the leg thigh, what am I trying to do?
Keep as much skin on the breast.
That's right, because we can always trim that up later on, but with pan-seared duck breast, we're looking to make sure that breast is covered with the skin. So that's one wing off, or one breast off with wing. Other side, we're just going to turn it around. Again, nice long slicing strokes, following that curvature of the carcass. Rolling your knife around the rib bones. Pull the wing out, as you guys have already told me before, and that way we can come right through that joint. We see where that joint is. And just there's a lot of extra fat there on the back side of the duck. We're going to take away more skin from the leg thigh so we have it on the breast so we can trim it up. So we're going to set those aside as I manhandle that. All right, so when we get to this part of it, we have the thighs, leg thighs, and same procedure here. Flip it on the back side. We have a little bit of an oyster here, smaller on the duck. What do I have to do, though, before I can start to cut it away?
Pop the ball socket.
All right, so we want to hold firmly on the backbone and gently peel it back to where that ball comes out of that ball and socket joint. Same thing on the other side. Not putting down my knife, but now we have, you know, that ball and socket come out. You can see where the meat comes in here for that oyster. Cut right towards the backbone. Yeah, kind of scoop around it, and really here it's a lot smaller on a duck. Just kind of scoop around and put your knife on the backbone and just cut right along the backbone to take off that leg thigh. Same thing on this side. What do I have to do? Cut right down towards the backbone, turn your knife all the way along and straight through. And we're going to take a lot of additional fat with this, but we look at this carcass, there is a lot of additional fat on the duck carcass, and we're going to trim this off, and we're going to save this today, and we're going to render it out. How do you render duck fat from the skin? Well, in the case of a seared piece of meat, that's correct. For us, if we're looking for pure duck fat, what we're going to do is we're going to boil it. And boiling it prevents the fat from discoloring. But we could certainly use that for stock. And we'll put that still there. Use that for stock. We would have our skin that we would use for, again, maybe rendering. We have our breast. Now, we need to, this is leg thigh. Here's our breast. I got to show you how to trim up each one of these. So here's our breast meat. Much smaller tenderloin on the duck breast. We still want to trim this up as a supreme just for showing of skill. But again, you see that natural kind of angle of the joint. Should just be able to cut right through that cartilage. What I want to do is look on the underside, see whether there's any additional cartilage that's left here. Like here we have some of that cartilage from the keel bone for the duck. We see our footprint of our breast where we can come, trim the excess fat away. And so for you guys doing the duck, I'm not going to make you French this out. We've kind of demonstrated that, but it looks real lanky, and just to show you why I wouldn't do it for duck. Again, cutting around, using the back of your knife to scrape. Huh? Yeah, longer, larger, a whole lot less meat on it. Again, taking our French knife, and here I didn't get through the knuckle as much, and you can see we have a splinter here. And so you would want to pull all that off. If you're really doing this in a restaurant, a lot of times you even use like a little hacksaw before it makes a smooth cut for it. But that's one breast cleaned up. Other one, same kind of thing. Trimming off the excess cartilage, trim off the excess skin. Just kind of using that breast as a footprint for it. I'm going to go ahead and take the wing off of this because this is what we're going to end up taking the wings off of these today. But for the wing to take it off, just like what we did with the chicken breast, is hold it by the wing. You can manipulate where that joint is, or here in the case of the duck, we can see that joint a whole lot easier. Use that for stock. Little tenderloins aren't going to be used for anything, but we do have a little bit more connective tissue here where that wing was connected, and that's because, again, these are birds that can fly, so they develop a little bit more there. Trim all that out. Breast, again, covered with the skin. For scoring the duck skin, we just want to take real light kind of strokes, like I'm tickling the top of the breast with my knife. And we're not looking to cut into the meat, we're just looking to score the skin. So do a little cross hatch mark there. So we put this in a hot saute pan, that'll show up a little bit more evident, but that's going to help that render out. So for the leg thigh of the duck, same principle. The only difference here is it's harder to pull the skin off of a duck. It's a lot better connected, and so it's a matter of kind of pulling and cutting the skin away. For our preparations today in class, we're leaving these whole because we're going to end up curing these for confit for next week. A little bit of thin meat there, and that's just from where it was connected to the rib, but that could be taken out. But again, skin, we'll save that today and we'll render that. Same principle here is what we used with the chicken, just taking your knife, scoring right on top of the leg bone, right on top of the thigh bone, starting to expose both those bones. Work your way around, using the back of your knife to scrape. So I have the thigh bone starting to separate there for the leg bone. Score on either side to expose that bone. I like to work your way around where you can cut it free. And again, a lot more tendon here in this than what we have with chicken, but use the back of your knife to scrape that down towards the joint. And then now you can grab both those bones, scrape in conjunction, or start to cut down and around that joint.